automotive world, no one does platform sharing better than Hyundai, Genesis, and Kia. They can make two very different vehicles off of the same basic platform.
It's true. Even though the new Hyundai Santa Fe and refreshed Kia Sorento look completely different, they do share bones. And so, both Mike and I are going to take these two in-betweener SUVs out for a drive to see which one is the better choice for people who only really need an occasional third row in their family vehicle.
There may not be a vehicle that has changed its look more from generation to generation than the Santa Fe. It's now very boxy in look, a trend that's really popular right now. But it's more than just a shape. This is a very useful design because it offers more space inside. And Hyundai's really going after more of an adventurous customer by adding some little touches like this panel back here that's very Land Rover and looks, and inside the steering wheel has a very distinct British SUV look to it as well. For those that will be using the roof rack a lot, there's a grab handle so you can help step up and get to the top. And as you'll notice, everywhere on this vehicle, there are H's. The headlights are H's, the taillights are H's. Inside, you guessed it, more H's everywhere. I am not even gonna try to count how many H's are on this vehicle inside and out because I just don't have the time.
Now, I know the Sorento isn't quite the hot newness that the Santa Fe offers with its boxy, contemporary look, but I think this is a really cohesive design and it's going to age really well. Plus, Kia's latest design language, which you see in the updated nose, works really well on the Sorento's shape. It gives it an aggressive but not overly aggressive look. And what other SUV out there can pull off these split four-spoke wheels, right? I think that while Mike might prefer the Santa Fe, I really like this because the Santa Fe just reminds me of that horse meme, you know, the drawing with the really realistic front half and then the not so realistic back half. Yeah, that one. I'm just not feeling it.
Now, as we mentioned, both vehicles are very similar under the skin. They both can be had as hybrids, and the Sorento can actually also be had as a plug-in hybrid. They both can have turbocharged 4 cylinders, which is the case with the vehicles we have on hand. The 2.5-liter 4-cylinder makes 311 pound-feet of torque, and in the Sorento, it's rated at 281 horsepower, while in the Santa Fe, it's rated at 277 horsepower. Now, you're not really going to feel the difference of 4 horsepower, and they're both equally the same when it comes to driving behavior. An 8-speed dual-clutch transmission is the only option, and it's powering all 4 wheels. Being a dual-clutch, there's good and bad. We don't notice as much low-speed hesitation as we found in a lot of dual-clutch transmissions, but on the highway, if you're in one of the regular drive modes and you want to quickly downshift a bunch of gears to make a passing maneuver, there's going to probably be a delay. Once that power does build, as the numbers suggest for a vehicle that's slightly smaller than other 3-row SUVs, acceleration's quite brisk. Around town, it can really get up and go, and on the highway, there's no legal speed that this can't easily break, even with multiple passengers on board. I do wish this came with a regular 8-speed automatic, like found in some of Kia and Hyundai's other products, but for dual clutch, this one's pretty livable, and it's not as bad as others that are currently on the market.
Now, you just heard from Mike about how these two have the exact same powertrain, and so they perform basically the same on that front. Well, it's not quite the same case when it comes to ride quality. These are similar, but a little bit different. So in the Sorento, I have 20-inch alloys instead of 21s, and very slightly wider rubber. Now, what that translates to for the driver is a slightly more traditional SUV feel. Paired with slightly lighter steering than the Santa Fe, the Sorento just feels a little bit smaller and easier to place on the road. Now, we're talking, again, not much difference unless you're driving them back to back, but, well, that's what we're doing here. You might think that this is the more aerodynamic looking vehicle and thus you'll get a lot less wind noise on the highway. You're wrong. So the Santa Fe, despite looking like the box that the Sorento ships in, actually has a better coefficient of drag, which means that it's, well, just as quiet, if not quieter, on the highway. It lends it a very premium feel. Both of them are well damped, and they're definitely leaning more towards the comfort side of the equation in this unique class, and that's fine. They're going to be used for family purposes. They should ride like family vehicles.
Body roll is more controlled in the Santa Fe, and it's a similar story for the Sorento compared to things like the Telluride and the Palisade. And maybe it's a byproduct of having a smaller third row that won't be used as much, but Hustling through a corner at high speed or needing to apply the brakes suddenly, it feels a lot more car-like than those bigger three rows. So there's also that advantage to taking this class over something bigger.
One important difference that I need to point out, if Mike didn't already, is that the shifter is better in the Sorento. I appreciate a traditional shifter. The shape is a little weird because it's a little shallow in terms of a traditional shift knob, but I find that the electronic shifter in the Santa Fe sometimes just isn't as responsive when you need to quickly switch from reverse and drive, say in 3-point turn situations. So I give the advantage to the Sorento.
This calligraphy trim of the Santa Fe comes with so many features. Not only are the driver and the front passenger benefiting from a power seat, but the two captain's chairs in the second row are both power. They can also get 3 stages of heat back there, and the driver and front passenger get that, as well as ventilation, and of course the steering wheel is also heated. There's this one big panel of glass that features 2 screens behind it, one for the infotainment system and one for the digital gauge cluster, and both can be configured to however the user wants them to be. Although the Sorrento's center stack's a little cleaner with its changeable climate control to audio control, I prefer what's in the Santa Fe. There's more hard buttons, and the buttons that are push, they're there permanent, and it's just easier to find what you need on the go, which is important because you want to keep your eyes on the road and not down here trying to find a button. The dual wireless charging pads are a nice premium touch, as are the rear sunshades. There's other cool little details, like how every passenger gets a USB-C charging port, and this center bin. The lid opens up normally for front seat passengers, but then those in the middle row can flip it up in the opposite direction to also access the center console. Front seat passengers can also drop items into it, and then those in the middle row can actually pull the whole center console toward them to get access to those items. It's one of those gimmicky features that actually is probably quite useful.
Now, I've been a big fan of the Sorento since it launched in 2020, and this model continues that streak of just offering a really nice interior, very high quality feel that's better than those half-size smaller models like a RAV4 or a CR-V. That being said, it also makes its own personality in the wider Kia SUV range because it's just a little more rugged than something like a Sportage, but stops short of feeling like cosplay, like it's trying too hard. You have these chunky grab handles on the door that look and feel great. There's a lot of soft touch material on the dashboard and on the doors. Brushed aluminum adds a bit of a classy feel. There's dark wood trim that might not be real, but at least feels it. And of course, a light headliner. Now, the light headliner is important because, as we've covered, the Sorento isn't quite as big as the Santa Fe inside, and so with this, you get a better feeling of airiness and spaciousness. Now, while the Sorento did get a solid boost in tech, we're still talking a facelift here, and thus, it's still missing out on a few of the newer features you'll find in a Santa Fe. For example, if you're really concerned about germs, you do not get the UV cleaning option. If you're worried about charging all your various mobile devices, well, there's one wireless charger here, and it's a good one. It holds the phone in place, but it's just one, not two. Luckily, you do get the very handy switchable USB-C charger down in the center console, and it's a large storage space to be able to fit 2 phones.
When it comes to usable storage, well, there really isn't too much contest. There's a deeper cargo area behind the third row in the Santa Fe, and because of that boxy shape and flat back rear hatch, taller items fit in as well. And then up front, there are storage areas everywhere. There's 2 glove boxes with a tray in between to hold stuff. There's that huge storage bin I talked about between the front 2 rows, and there's also an area you can put stuff underneath the dual wireless charging pads. I also find the infotainment system in a lot of modern Hyundais to be really easy to operate. And look, I even have a volume knob and a tuning knob. Yes. And finally, to wrap up technology, of course, the Santa Fe has all the modern technologies when it comes to safety, all the active assist like lane keep and adaptive cruise control and emergency braking, all that good stuff. And it also has the head-up display and those lane cameras that show up in the digital dash whenever you put on the left signal or right signal. The second row of the Santa Fe is quite comfortable. As you can see, I've got plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom. The seat's not even all the way back. The armrest here and the armrest on the door are at the perfect spot for me. I have a 3-level heated seat. I have the built-in sunshades. This microfiber roof is very nice. All in all, for a vehicle this size, this is a really good second row. Inside the Sorento, legroom is also pretty good and the seat's at a good height and the 2 armrests aren't bad. This one's a little smaller. I only have a 2-level heated seat instead of a 3-level, not a big deal. And instead of having vents on the pillars, they're now here. So there's still vents for the rear passengers. This panoramic sunroof is larger and airier and you feel more open back here, but the trade-off is I get less headroom. I'm not too far off of the roof in the second row here. The third row of the Santa Fe is surprisingly spacious. It's actually got more room than some larger 3-row SUVs. I have this seat put all the way back and my knees still aren't touching it. Headroom, I still have quite a few inches above my head. Now, of course, the seat's a little low, so my knees are up, but overall it's not bad. I also have climate control back here. Oddly, both vehicles don't have climate controls for the middle row, but the Santa Fe gives it to the third row passengers and we get vents for ourselves back here. And there's also the USB-C outlets and a regular 110 volt outlet. Where things really separate between the two is here in the third row. People who need to use the third row on a more regular basis, this isn't the better choice. As you can see, I have a lot less headroom. I have less legroom with the seat all the way back. The seat cushion's about the same length down, but I don't have vents like I did in the Santa Fe. I do have a USB-C port, and these windows are a lot smaller and more forward, giving me a bit of a claustrophobic feel back here.
While the Kia makes do with a slightly less spacious second row and one that is lacking in power folding, I think that's a win because you're going to have to wait forever if you want those seats to fold in the Santa Fe, and the Sorento is just a really easy motion.
I know at the beginning we said these vehicles are completely different, and that was a bit of an exaggeration. There are a lot of things that are similar between the two, but there are a lot of differences still. Long gone are the days of a manufacturer making a vehicle, then slapping on a new grille and calling it a completely different vehicle.
It's true, and I am a big fan of the Kia Sorento. It's rugged, it's spacious, it has a lot of good tech, and the upgrades for this year make it even better. But the fact of the matter is, it's just a little bit older to start, which means it's starting from an older foundation.
Yeah, it's a case of newer is better here because the Santa Fe offers a little more space, more features for a very similar price. So if you don't mind the boxy styling, which I quite like, this right now is the better overall purchase, but in a couple years, the Sorento will be all new and we'll have to do this all over again.
So we'll see you then.